During World War II, one of the classic American bombers was the B-17 Flying Fortress. Of course, there was another airplane perhaps equally as famous, but maybe not as well known, and that was the B-24 Liberator. And I'm standing beside the pilot of this B-24 from the Collins Foundation, and his name is Jason Owen. Jason, greetings, and tell us a little bit about this wonderfully classic aircraft.
Well, this airplane was restored back in '85, and actually the restoration started in '85. They finished it in '89, and that was really a group effort by a lot of veterans and enthusiasts that wanted to see a B-7 or a B-24 go back to the skies.
I know she had a very colorful history, and I understand that incredibly she flew for a while with the Royal Air Force, Britain's Royal Air Force.
Yes, it was transferred. I think it was in October of '44 over to the Royal Air Force, and then it saw action in the Pacific. Then ended up in India.
What was she doing in India?
I believe it was part of the CBI theater, China, Burma, India.
And was she a troop carrier or bomb carrier? What did she do there?
Just strictly a bomber.
And when the Collins Foundation got hold of her, what sort of condition was she in?
It was tough. The foundation bought the airplane for a static display, and the veterans saw it more appropriate for the airplane to fly, so then it became a flying example to promote and to help preserve the history that it represents.
You know, when I look at you and think about World War II, I got to tell our viewers that Jason looks very, very young indeed, and I wonder how you feel. Obviously, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but how do you feel about being the pilot and captain of a plane like this?
Well, it's definitely a privilege. The men that flew this were actually 30 years younger than I am, and they were really kids, and what they were able to do and accomplish was phenomenal in itself.
I happen to be an aviation aficionado, and one of the things about flying the B-24 was she had, for aviation people who don't know this, she had what's called a very high wing. Could you explain what that means?
The wing loading was very high, and this airplane flew more by shape than it did,
More by shape?
Well, the shape of the wing was the secret, and a guy named Davis came up with the airfoil design, and they adapted that to this airplane. It was not originally the original airfoil that they had in mind, but when they built the bomber, this is the one that they went with. It proved to be a lot better in the wind tunnels.
But what exactly does high wing mean? I mean, when you look at the B-17 that's parked next to us, their wings are sort of much lower down. Is that basically what high wing means?
Well, I think they're talking more about high wing loading, but the original concept and design of this airplane, which I don't believe they actually built, but was actually going to be a seaplane, which adapted the high wing version, but it was just on paper, and then they adapted that over to a heavy long-range bomber.
I believe this plane can also carry a higher, bigger bomb load than the B-17.
It could, depending on the range. If it wasn't far, they could carry quite a bit if they were going a long ways. I was talking to some veterans that told me they flew an 18-hour and 25-minute mission out in the Pacific, and they had enough fuel to get there and back, but they could only carry 2 bombs.
Okay. I see on the other side of the aircraft there's a whole lot of names. Could you tell our viewers what those names signify?
Those represent the veterans and the families that really wanted to see this airplane fly. It's a sponsorship, and it's really because of them that this airplane flies. They saw to it as a group to get the funds to help restore this. And once they did that, the airplane has been in the sky for the last 22 years.
This has been flying with Collins for 22 years?
Yes, since 1989. This is our 22nd year of the tour.
And have you been flying all that time?
I started with them in '89.
And you started as what?
Pilot.
No kidding. Were you a pilot before?
I was flying their B-17 prior to that, and my background and career has been aviation.
How do you, for aviation people watching this and who love aviation, how do you compare the two in terms of flying?
Between the 17 and the 24?
Right.
The 17 is actually a very good, very stable, honest airplane. There's really nothing you can complain about it. This one here, you've got to pay attention. This is more like walking your dog in the park. If you don't pay attention, He gets away from you.
When you get inside, one of your senior executives told me that the inside of the aircraft is, for all intents and purposes, basically like it was in World War II.
It's as close to original as I think you'll see. There's a lot of museum examples, but they're empty on the inside. And the shame is there's really not a lot to see. I believe there's about 9, maybe 10 airframes in the world, and that's it.
Again, for aviation enthusiasts, one of the things that the Americans had in World War II was something called the Norden bomb sight. Does this have that?
This has the Norden bomb sight in it.
And again, for people who don't know this, the amazing thing about the Norden bomb sight was...
Well, it was very accurate, and they were able to keep it pretty much secret all the way through the war.
And the last final question is, in flying this aircraft, is this like a sort of weekend thing, or is it over several months, or how long do you do this?
This is a 10-month tour. It starts in January in Florida, and we work our way around the country to 110 to 130 cities each and every year to arrive back in Florida in November.
We're talking with Graham Kerr, and Graham, incredibly, was what were you with this aircraft?
I was a navigator, B24 navigator.
So Graham, tell us first of all, what was your time like on this aircraft and how many missions did you fly?
Well, we got in the last of the war. This takes me back 67 years, because 67 years ago we got our crew together.
Your mother was probably very glad you got in at the end.
Oh yeah, and so I was on one bombing raid to Linz, Austria, which was a big marshalling yard. There was 1,000 plane strike, and when you get 1,000 of these babies going, that's a lot of bombs. And then after VE Day, we flew a number of missions to drop supplies to prisoner of war camps. And
when you were flying that mission to Austria, was the aircraft you in attacked by the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe?
yeah, we had fighters encountered, and then when we hit Linz, Austria, there were a fantastic amount of anti-aircraft guns.
The thing that I always find extraordinary is some guys in the military find all that absolutely exciting, but you were very young then. Were you scared, or were you frightened, or excited, or what?
No, it was a different time then. We were all very patriotic. We wanted to be in the service. We wanted to be in the war. We wanted to be there actively. And we were conditioned and we were, at that time, it was many times that we didn't know who was going to win the war. It was desperate. And so we were all willing to give our lives, and we weren't scared.
When you found out that you were going to fly a B-24, did you have any preference for this aircraft or the B-17?
No, I was going to be in a bomber. It would be either the 17 or the 24, and I like the 24 better because it's faster, it goes higher, carries more bombs.
Well, thank you very much, Graham, and thank you for your service to this country. We're all very proud of you. Well, there's another story about one of World War II's famous bombers, the B-24 Liberator, and we thank all those who flew in them for the courage and devotion they gave for liberty. Until next time, I'm John Clayton, armchair traveler on RPV Television. Thanks for watching.